Hello people, and welcome back to part 4 of the build guide. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thanks so much for all the support across the series, because you guys are enjoying this so much, and yeah, I'm really enjoying playing this map, and really fun Transport Hub episode. Last time out, thank you for all the comments on it and suggestions. Unfortunately, we can't get the pathways any lower than this. There was a few comments saying this, and I kind of agree, but I think I can just about live with it. It would be nice if it was maybe 2 or 3 units lower, but Vanilla Collision says no, so we have to bear with it, unfortunately. But either way, let's get on with it. So today's episode, I want to move down this waterfront. Well, we're not going to kind of do a designated build today. It's going to be kind of a chill expansion of developing kind of a mixed-use waterfront. I want a couple of different things over here, especially down this end of the suburb too. And yeah, it should be quite a fun one. So let's come in and open up a tile. I'm going to purchase this one over here because I actually want access to the highway. And of course we can bring pretty significant growth out this way in the form of sort of mass suburbia, which eventually will serve as sort of that big crawl up to that eventual skyline, of course. But I'd like to start today's episode by building a little park-low interchange design, because I do want to provide highway access over here again. So we'll trim back these trees for a little bit. Now let's come in with our terrain first of all. And actually we'll do some roads first, yeah, so let's grab some dirt roads. They want to bring these on our smallest elevation, and let's just sort of eye up where we want this to go. Probably about here, I imagine, is going to be a good spot. So we're going to up by 3, which is the minimum height that we can clear. Pathways here, let's go for about there, should be okay. And then we'll do the same thing, 2 dashes apart. That's going to be wonderful. Then we want to do another sort of 10 from there. Actually, let's do another 5 from here. And then we use that sort of area as the place where we want our sort of landmass to come up to. Okay guys, so we are back with a fully decorated park-low design. So this thing, when we tend to do service interchanges, I tend to be pretty rigidly symmetrical, but chosen not to do that here. I wanted just to have sort of a custom landscaped interchange that fits the land that it sits on. And I don't think it's too bad. Got a nice little slip lane here. Here is my final configuration for the interchange if you want. And then I've just ran some bush linings and or industry fence against the edge. Some lane mathematics in the middle between the slip lanes. Same thing over here again as well. And it's flowing and it's working quite nicely. We've also prepared it to flow off and down here eventually as well. So I'm pretty happy with it, but either way what it has given us is more highway access, so that's all going to help to alleviate the pressure off of this junction here. Alright, very nice indeed. So now I'd like to turn our attentions back towards the waterfront, because I'd like to see if we can develop something here today. So it's going to be quite a mixed use waterfront. We're going to have industry down this end, some more service assets, then some more commercial up here. I definitely want to do something with this central square where we have the bus, trams and stop in, so we can possibly remove this, do some nice commercial stuff. We don't currently have access to nightlife, I don't think. When do we unlock nightlife? 7,000. We probably won't hit that today, but we definitely do want some nightlife eventually, which we might just switch out the commercial assets for. But for right now, let's go ahead and get all this zoned up. And we definitely want some population in where we have the demand for it, so let's get them all zoned. Definitely not here. We don't want to be building this side. It's going to be too close to the highway for the residences. We can shelter them probably with trees and sound barriers, so they should be okay here. Cool. So let's bring in the first keys into the build guide, because keys are an enormous sort of feature, and especially for me, a design choice in a waterfront. So let's go into our bridges and piers keys. If you are missing this content creator pack, this is definitely one of the better ones to get. The Bridges and Piers content creator pack, again, it's linked down in Instant Gaming below, but it gives you walkable keys, which are absolutely amazing. So I'm going to go with this simple city key for right now. I'm going to be snapping into a road guideline. And let's come up for this one here, okay? And we'll bring it in as far as we can. Let's go for there. And we'll let it run up this way. And hopefully that will actually just allow itself to be snapped in here without too much fuss. They can be awkward keys sometimes, especially in vanilla. We all know how awkward they can be, okay? But the fun thing about these is that they are walkable, which is really one of the main reasons why we use them, and we get a whole sort of different array of builds available to us with a walkable key. Cool. So we'll have this run just out there. Amazing. So we do get this dirt and backed up against it, which we'll fix in a second. But what I am keen on creating is a little walkable waterfront now. So if we come into our grid, and then I'd like to snap to angle as well, bring that up there. Okay, and then I think a little bit of ore fencing. There we go. I don't know if oil. Yeah, I think we'll go for oil fencing. Let's bring this up. And then I want to do a couple of little curves with it. And I'm just going to use a little bit of green belt here to blend back out of what is industrial area, essentially. So I'm going to use my build guide forest brush, which is just a collection of green content creator trees. Okay, and then we have this connection there. Let's then go and add some more path connections back onto this one here, so people can walk down to the waterfront towards the industry. And this should just sort us out. It'll start to develop this waterfront, which is going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing this in action. So we currently don't have a waterfront district name. I'm going to leave the naming of two churches waterfront up to you guys. Please get it down in the comments below as to what you think this waterfront should be called. So we'll paint it out this way. Cool. Yeah, let's follow the road guideline. Bring it down here too. Cool. So these houses are growing up here now. We definitely have some more industrial demand coming in, so let's make sure that we meet that. Again, we can remember things that we picked up from the first episode, and let's not forget to do those. Let's actually upgrade that to a industrial road as well. There's so many networks now. It takes so long to scroll in vanilla. It takes some getting used to. It really does. There's so many networks. It really is. Okay, so let's do some different size zonings here. Let's go ahead and get a couple of different shapes in. And it looks like we can expand that dirt pathway out the bottom. I hope you agree that now we're kind of a few episodes into the build guide, that these little clusters of designed generic industry are much more appealing than just sort of mass zoning it all in. Okay, I think a little bit of overgrowth over here is welcome as well. And to be honest, I'm a fan of that power line coming out of this area too. It adds to the industrial vibe. So how about we go for that? Okay, started to blend it in a little bit more now, isn't it? That's very cool. How are we doing for garbage collection in the city? It looks like we could do with another landfill site actually, so that's going to be perfect to include in our new little industrial block. Perfect. And I'll let one of these level up so we don't get another repeated asset, because that might look a little bit too repeated if we do it on the backside of the smaller ones as well. But otherwise, that's pretty special. I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, let's keep this residential coming in, because I want all this around here to be residential. Of course, I'm just avoiding any awkward zones that I don't really want to fill in. Let's just go ahead and get all that done. And then we'll trim off anything we don't want. So these little awkward shapes on the end tend to sort of ruin the suburbia for me, so we'll get rid of those. Don't mind a little 2x2 or 2x3 house. It's nice that this is growing up. It's nice to pay a little bit more attention to this side of the map. We've been so focused on growing out towards downtown in recent episodes. How's our transport hub doing now that hopefully everything is sort of coming together? Yeah, I don't think I hate it. It seems to be getting ever so slightly busier. Hoping that these trams are going to get a lot busier, a lot sooner. I guess we'll see. Got buses coming up and down here now as well. So I think we should actually continue to upgrade this road here. So I mentioned I do want to do a whole episode on cycling, and we will. But I definitely want cycling over here, and I think the most appropriate way to achieve that is going to be the 4-lane road with decorative cycle lanes. Or decorative trees and cycle lanes, I think. Why don't we have this coming up through here? Then down to this way. Do you want to keep it going all the way around? I guess we could actually extend this cycle highway now all the way into the downtown eventually, which will be really good for people being able to cycle. There is one thing we also want to do. I will mention it in this episode, but I'll cover it in the cycling episode. It's to come to city planning and have encouraged biking citywide. It doesn't cost us anything, and it gets more people on bikes, which is good. It's actually perfect timing for building this industrial estate, because we have just run out of water and sewage, so now it's going to be a good time to add in a new sewage plant. Let's add that one in there, and then we also want a new water tower. I think I'm happy to have this included as part of the interchange, actually, so why don't we see if we can, fit there, are you? Maybe just in this corner here? Is that going to be alright? Your power should jump through from there as well, maybe. No, not quite. You will do once a house comes in here, though. That should see it through. Tremendous. Hopefully that happens. There we go. No, it's fine. Cool. So let's head down the main road now. And then start planning out exactly what I want to happen. So as we head further towards the waterfront and kind of past this little green belt here, I'm envisioning just some green space here. Just a couple of benches, a few trees for people to enjoy. And then I definitely like some choice commercial assets to sit as part of this space, so we'll zone up some favourable spaces and see what comes in here. Likewise, again here, however, I would also like to save a little bit of room for some green belt to come through this space, so we can do that as well. So let's carry on. So this is something I find really helpful for sort of filling out an area and adding personality, which is the whole sort of theme of my playstyle. And this is just sort of slowly crawling down a main road and seeing what sits along it, okay? So I know that I've got my little church grounds here. I'm pretty happy with this. I don't want to do anything with that one. I'm now arriving to something of kind of a centerpiece, right? So why don't we see if we can grab a unique building? And it looks as though if we delete these houses here, the Friendly Neighborhood Park unique is going to sit in perfectly in that spot. Which again is a fantastic example of if it fits, then it sits. We can't really deny that. I don't think this is an expandable park, is it? I don't think it is. We might actually be able to make it work though, especially if we do this. The game could read that as a connection. And then we've got some detailing spaces out here, perhaps just a simple kind of dual live oak pattern to mark the entrance into the park. Is really all that needs. I don't think it really needs much more, does it? Okay. So a nice unique building, of course. This is going to draw tourists and visitors and just act as a general park space to also increase the land value around all of these guys here, which is great. Tremendous. So definitely want more commercial sitting here again as well. So nice big deep batches of commercial here. We will bring in a tree line just to help the noise pollution. Not that it will be an issue, but it's always nice just to be on top of it. And then more commercial here. So like I said, I think I prefer this to be... I don't know, I'm not sure if I would prefer this to be nightlife actually. I guess I'll leave it up to you guys. Maybe when we unlock nightlife, would you like to see this nightlife? But I think just why it's on the edge of a sort of sleepy suburb, there's churches nearby, I think it would just be like a generic commercial waterfront. Sort of shops and maybe a couple of wine bars rather than nightclubs. I'm not entirely sure. But of course, pick and choose your assets as they come in. Some green belt will be really easy to blend in here. Just because we can meander these little sections back onto the key. In various places, we can bring up some sort of interlinking green belt like that. And then this will be a great space for some of that detailing we talked about. Maybe a little tree there. Let's come into our park life stuff. Let's get some park props. Find a choice bench. Okay, and then just a couple of little benches around it there. A little bin next door to it. Okay, and perhaps a pavilion on the other side of the pathway. And then before we know it, once we do this sort of 5 or 6 or 7 times across the green belt, it's just going to look a lot more organic and just a nice sort of green open space that has all this commercial against it. You've got the river to your left against this little quay wall, and it just starts to slowly piece together. It's a much more interesting design than just leaving it, like this, isn't it? Just having the brown slope and not really doing too much with it. I really do enjoy putting stuff like this together. And here we go, everyone. This is the best thing ever. People are using the keys. See, that's just walking back with a little toolbox. She's heading back from the industry area. That's really cool. Is that because she's an attendant at the recycling centre? I've never noticed that before, that she has a little tool belt on, a little toolbox, because she's at the recycling centre. That's so cool. I'd never noticed that before. Like, literally never. But either way, our Waterfront is developing now. Again, lots of tastefully, specifically chosen commercial will make an enormous difference to the way that your cities look. Love the addition of a gas station there as well. Or did that just level up before I historicaled it? Yes, looks like we saved it. We very nearly lost that. Apologies to my voice as well today, guys. I am fighting another sort of coldy sore throat. Very annoying to be ill again. But yes, it's just something we can't avoid, unfortunately. Again, very happy with what's happening here, although some things are starting to upgrade without my permission. So we'll double check exactly what's happening with those as well, to make sure they're not turning into anything awful. I'm happy with this little repeated pattern we've got outside as well. Some different branding, but the same store. I think that's okay. And you're alright as well, I think. Yes, we will keep you. So I think we'll also upgrade the tree along the road into an eastern cottonwood. For those that don't know, because I do still get quite a few comments about this, you just select the tree you want and then hover over the road to do it, and then you can upgrade it. Alright, let's have a little chat about what's going to happen with the island and the castle. So we've had loads of different ideas for this, including leaving it alone, leaving it to be haunted, turning it into a park, a concert venue, loads of different ideas, and I think I do like the idea that this is just like a little sort of park island somewhere you'd take the kids for the day maybe, and maybe there's some tents or sort of camping facilities you wanted to stay over, and you could. So I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab this 2-lane gravel road and just bring this straight out of my key and across onto the next island. That should be fine. Wonderful. Let's bring this together now. Cool. So I think this bridge itself, this is actually going to be downgraded into a pathway. I just don't think it needs to be a road. Because if it is pathway, we can then place assets around here, so maybe people can sleep at the foot of the castle maybe. That might be really cool. Alright, so let's add ourselves in a park area. I think that the nature reserve is going to be the most appropriate theme, isn't it? Well, let's see if we can do that. Looks like I want to bring that road out just a little bit further across. Probably about there, should be fine. And then now we have that in, we can just grab a nature reserve pathway. And then we're going to bring this on a straight road tool, straight across, then hopefully it will just bridge itself fairly sensibly. That's absolutely perfect for me. And then we can have this come in. I really don't want to destroy any walls here, so we'll try our hardest not to get them. You can get these if you do have Find It. I have been thinking about adding Find It to the save, because it gives us access to so many more vanilla props. But do let me know if that's something that you guys would be interested in seeing more of. Okay, cool. So the nature reserve park here I'm pretty happy with. What I'd then like to do is just create a little sort of visitors center, if you like. So I'm going to double up my dirt road network and then use a lot of the park life stuff. Let's also extend that park life area. Please get more name suggestions for the Castle Island name down below as well. So I'm looking for 2 names from you guys today. One for the commercial waterfront and industrial area down here, and then another name for this Castle Island Park. So let's just paint the whole island basically. We won't use the whole thing, I don't think. I want to leave a little bit of it as still sort of natural in nature. But then arriving at the park, I'd like to have various bits of information. So let's go for an info booth with a couple of restrooms either side of it. And then I'd also like a cafe in here as well, and then we can detail this out during our detailing time lapse. This just wants lots of tables and bins placing around it, so it's generally part of the same sort of communal space. And then I definitely want that forest to come back in now, so lots of forest here. And I don't think I'm averse to as it grows out. Let's have a look what we've got from our nature reserve stuff. So we will eventually unlock some viewing decks, and I think just a little viewing deck trail that comes off of this pathway, and then let's just meander it around. Should be quite sort of a mixed use park life area actually, this one. It should be quite nice. And then I just want this path to meander through the forest until it eventually reaches a viewing deck, which is yet to be unlocked. Can sit here and sort of gaze out over the water and lets people explore further along this little island here. Of course, they'll all want power and water. We'll get that to them in a moment. Let's go ahead and get some actual nature reserve assets down. What do we have at the minute? So we do have very nearly the next level, so we want to include possibly a little campfire. Little campfire site number 2. We have this here. And maybe some tents around the bottom of the castle. Some wild campers perhaps. Get a few more in here, just away from the road. Looks like we can. Get those in. How does that look? I definitely want to replace those trees that we're losing, with especially live oaks. Okay, things like that. And then we can have some... Of course, this castle actually has after dark lights on it, doesn't it? How does that look at night time? I don't think I'm averse to having people camp out in the castle. I can't imagine that would be true to real life. I imagine something like this would be very sort of watched by a firm like English Heritage. Like this would be almost like a World Heritage site. You're not allowed to just sort of climb over it. There would be ropes and cordons and some sort of guard, you imagine. But it's not often in City Skylines that we get the aesthetic of a couple of tents sat at the bottom of the castle ruins with a lot of campfire here. Perhaps the location of the campfire doesn't make a vast amount of sense, but perhaps we can switch it out for that one and place it in there. Is that a little bit better? I think it is, isn't it? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it and see how it grows on me throughout the episode. But either way, let's whack our ticket price up. We do have the entertainment level now, which is what I need in order to get the viewing deck, and we'll put that in probably during the detailing time lapse now. And then I think just a little bit of nature reserve fence in here, and then that natural forest. I really don't want this to be a overly convoluted park life area, just pretty simple, and should do as a job, I think. Okay. Already see so many people arriving here via car. Would some carports be out of place, I wonder, if we were to include them? We can have a little look. Yes, I think they are a little bit out of place, aren't they? I think they do. They do clash a little bit. Okay, in terms of how we're going to get power over here, I haven't quite decided that yet. If we have an earthquake sensor from the Natural Disasters DLC, not quite. 7,000 population is when we get it. Okay. Well, cool. This is the general sort of theme and concept that I'd like to bring home for the park life area here. Okay, that's pretty cool as you walk through the gate into the castle, isn't it? It makes it seem a lot more official. I think I'm really happy with that. So many people already heading across there too. Very nice. They just look really cool. Once it all comes together, of course. So let's turn our attention back towards the mainland now. So there's something I'd like to talk about in terms of vanilla detailing that can be quite helpful for a lot of people without mods, and especially Surface Painter. So when we have zonings like this on a corner, often seeing the end of the concrete texture like this can be very abrupt, quite blunt. And now obviously the Surface Painter mod fixes this, but we don't really have a solution for it in vanilla. But I find that what does help is if you run a regular vanilla walking pathway behind all these assets and mimic the curve that they're sat on to some sort of extent like this, you can almost make the back of that commercial asset really walkable, and we'll sort of get an impression as to how this works here. Bring it down there and then connect it into other places. Okay, and then you can hook in dirt roads off of that pathway there. Keep it concrete if you want, it's really sort of personal preference. And then turn off all your snap-ins and then just interlink it in with areas to keep everyone super happy and walkable. Maybe a little pathway every time we come down against a commercial unit. Okay, and then we can get some trees and whatnot knocking about in here. It's going to be a little bit more decoration and sort of personality for our high street, I think, isn't it? I don't think anyone's going to say no to that. Let's fill in with a little bit of overgrowth. And hopefully now you can agree that's a lot better than just having it as a very blunt edge. You've got this sort of pathway that loops around the back of the shops, interconnects into other networks, of course, and it looks pretty cool from the front of the commercial asset as well. So this is a nice little tip anyway. I thought I'd include it. It sort of saves that happening at least a little bit more. Unless actually indeed you amend the zoning squares, at which point the asset will grow into an ice cream shop. But I'm still happy with that, alright? So just be careful that you don't destroy any squares if indeed you do want to keep that particular asset. But I hope the thought process and the idea comes across there, alright? Fantastic, but let's have a little scan now, just see how busy things are. Okay, we probably want to turn off some of these traffic lights here. Let's review our public transport lines. How are the trams coping? More than enough. There's really not that many people using this line yet. It's because the town's so small. Like, once this line gets into downtown, it will become so much more busier. But for right now, it is pretty quiet. And looks like the buses are getting a little bit of use as well. Yeah, the buses are actually getting really good use. Really good use. Especially this yellow line here. Yeah, 29 people waiting at this stop to come and go from it, which is good. Happy with that. Nice little bus terminals all buzzing around now. It's so much fun, isn't it? Absolutely love this game. So much fun to play. Alright, wonderful. But this waterfront is really starting to develop its personality now, isn't it? We've got our park area set up. Hopefully it's not going to be too long before this arrives at level 2, just once its visitor count really. That will just come with time. Otherwise, guys, this does feel like a good place for a detailing time-lapse. A really weird build today. We've done residential, industry, commercial, and the park life area across a very awkward shaped land and space, and also our park load interchange as well. Let's not forget about this, right? So just going to detail it up, bring in some forest boundary between the residentials and the highway so it continues to look like this and not like this. So bring it in, refine any details around the interchange that I'm not happy with, and probably also bring in a little bit more industrial zoning as well, just to expand this estate out at various different shapes and sizes. Keep them minimalistic, you know, don't get back into the habit of mass zoning generic industry again. You can keep it small and tasteful and still factor it into the actual aesthetic of the city, I think. So I'm happy to have this happen again and several places across the map as well, as and when we need them. Lots of greenbelt and little greenbelt details in the greenbelt itself between the quay and the road to create this park life area. And then a little bit of tram detailing. Things that we've done before with tiles and props that we all have access to now. And then I'll also bring in some rocks and more natural forest boundary against this island. Some tiles and some benches, and just make this sort of visitor arrival centre for people coming to visit the castle. Then they have a little bit more here. But a really fun build today, really unique blend of styles and districts. So let's detail it up, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review, shall we? This area has now just developed such a cute little sort of spot of character. Let's have a little look as what's going on here. Around the highway interchange we have lots of bush and fence patterns of course, which now blend in with the build guide forest over here, which borders back onto that suburbia on the other side of it. And just really simple, really cute, and I love the fact that it's not super sort of like symmetrical here. You know, they're very rarely symmetrical in real life, and it just sort of, I think, fits the landscape and does the job nicely. You know, we've got some nice little parallel sort of slip lanes here. It comes down onto this one, and a nice big swooping curves out this way, and we hook back in, and it's nice. I'm a fan of this interchange. One of my favourite service ones I think that we've done. And little water tower in here as well, of course. And then we come down into a 6-lane road, because this gives us that dedicated turning lane back onto the highway, which is handy, so a little bit of lane math at the end of the interchange there as well. Before it spills back onto the suburb and then into the industrial area, and which is just being used to slowly satisfy any industrial demands that come in. Again, I'm being relatively choosy with what is allowed to be a part of this, but I don't mind the kind of little sort of industrial estate that is present over here. Following the road back down, we have the power lines going over, which I did leave them in. They're not needed anymore because the power is naturally jumping, but I like the aesthetic of the power line sort of coming over the industrial estate like that, so I'm going to leave that in. I think it's quite nice. And then as we head down this road now, it really picks up lots of different vibes. So of course we've just passed by the industrial vibe over here, which how great does that look, by the way, looking back down that road. It's that little industrial estate at the sort of outskirts of the town. Really enjoy that. It's so much better than mass zoning it. But yes, lots of personality, so lots of commercial. You imagine prime sort of real estate commercial space along this waterfront here. And then one of our first little park details within this wider greenbelt space, added in some of the bollards from plazas and promenades, so it's like, you know, cars can't drive through here if they wanted to off this T-junction. And then include some tables, some benches and bins in and around the green space just to add personality to it. And it's really nice now seeing people walk along these seawall quays, isn't it? Really cute. I love these assets so much. They make such a difference to a park. Yeah, again, if you want these, they are in the Bridges and Piers content creator pack. Let's link down to Instant Gaming below. And then we have another little gazebo here with a little bush ring around it. And then we head down this pathway, and I did want to leave some open green space as well, so factoring some of that in, we arrive at a little park life hedge and seat and bin design, again just at the junction of the pathways to help bring them a little bit more personality. Same thing again, links back through. And then we come on to, there's just more like commercial over here. Also adding some greenback patterns through this way. A nice little one side repeated horse chestnut pattern this one is. So I thought that was pretty cute. And then we come down onto the waterfront where we have another little eatery area with a couple of ice cream stalls around it and an ice cream van with some tables and chairs and a little bit of a hedge line from Park Life, sort of classic vanilla detailing palettes all along the waterfront, which is quite cute. And I love that this hasn't become the nightlife area, I think. I know we mentioned it earlier in the episode, and I think the fact that we're near the churches here definitely lends itself to being sort of a quieter, more cute waterfront, I think. So I'm happy that's developed, and I love the addition of the stone wall onto the main road there as well, right? That's really cool. I love that. Then we carry on down to some more things over here, and then we arrive over at this little repeated plaza and promenades part with some benches, gazebos and fountains to kind of frame this central node that sits within this waterfront now. So I'm really happy with this. It's not overly done, I don't think. And then some more commercial along here, which again, all carefully chosen assets so it looks like a nice commercial front and doesn't get ridiculous. And that pathway behind again, paying off and getting a little bit of usage too. Pathway does actually come down here now. You can see what a difference that makes, right, using that curved pathway behind it to blend in some of that concrete texture. I think it really makes a difference, and of course it's going to provide walkability for everyone over here as well. Before we arrive at some finer corner detailing with a grill and a little gazebo, sort of newsstand, not gazebo, newsstand, isn't it? And bench and bin over here too. And then heading back down towards the tram line, we see a little pathway pattern now coming in. Which just gives us those benches and bins all down the road, which I think is really appropriate for a commercial front like this. Again, I can't get over how much of a difference it's making. Just being so careful with our commercial here. Just creates a nice waterfront, doesn't it? It's really cool. And then as we come down our tram pedestrian road back towards the centre, and then across the bridge onto the island. We arrive at our visitor centre, which has some vanilla dirt path in the middle with trees to create an overgrown vibe. Then some benches next to the cafe with some nature reserve fencing around our sort of introductory welcome centre, if you like, before the pathway meanders through a very heavily forested island now, to eventually arrive at a viewing point over here, which will eventually have more of a view once we develop. I think we're going to do the nightlife stuff further down the river here, perhaps more towards where the rail is. I think this would be more appropriate for nightlife, so let me know what you think of that. And then we come over towards the castle itself, which has now all been fenced up and boxed in with overgrowth and detailing to funnel people down into the castle, where indeed they can enjoy the facilities there. And let me know what you think about the tents. I can't imagine this being true to real life, but maybe the sort of management firm that owns this would like to replicate maybe spending a night in the castle so they allow people to camp near it. I don't know, maybe we can tie that into the law if we do decide to keep the tents. But either way guys, a really fun, chill suburban build today to round out this kind of corner of the tile before we cross over onto the other side of the highway, and of course keep heading towards the eventual downtown, towards the main coastline at some point as well. I'd like to thank you all so much for the growth on the channel recently. There has been thousands of you arriving and commenting and interacting and joining the Discord and using the instant gaming link. It's crazy to see the channel growing so much, so thank you. It really does mean the world to me. Please do enjoy some cinematics of today's expansions. But otherwise, I'll shut up and I'll leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.